Smite Talk is proudly sponsored by Tweaked Audio. Go to tweakedaudio.com for high-performance, noise-reducing earbuds. Use the code OctanePro to get 33% off plus free shipping anywhere in the world. Check out Tweaked Audio today. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of Smite Talk. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 8 of Smite Talk. My name is OctanePro, and joining me this week, I have a special guest, streamer, YouTuber, content creator, caster, and the man, the myth, the legend. We have Drybear. Drybear, how's it going, sir?
It's going terrific, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Well, those of you guys checking out Smite Talk for the first time, Smite Talk is a show dedicated to the community. We go ahead and take your questions, your comments, but we take it over a call. We're using Raid Call, and so you guys can go ahead and call in. The show's about 30-45 minutes, but you can call in directly through Raid Call. So go ahead, download Raid Call. It's completely free, and you can go ahead and see the group ID, which is kind of like the chat room per se if you've never used Raid Call before. It is 7461039. And we're going to talk about a handful of different topics, and you can call in and talk to us. The topics for tonight, we're going to talk about the Vulcan Rework. We're going to talk about the current state of gods and map balance in the game. We're going to talk about the 10-cent game carnival. And then finally, the Smite release on the 25th, along with the 100K tournament coming up in March. So without further ado, everybody kind of knows who you are, Drybear, but if somebody, if God forbid someone does not, who is this wonderful guy sitting next to me?
I am a community member, just like pretty much everybody else. I do content on YouTube, I make YouTube videos. I post 1 to 2 every single day. Well, guaranteed 1 Smite video every single day. I do guides, content creation for that. I do streaming 5 days a week, and a 6th day will be casting, 6 or 7 days, depending on the weekend, casting the official tournaments on the Smite Game channel, the Hi-Rez tournament series. I'm set for the EU on Sundays. I also am an owner and operator of TierMonster.com. I handle most of the PR, media, and content creation there. And that is a site where you go for data collection, data stats, all kinds of stuff on Smite. And I do lots of cool stuff as well in the nighttime during my stream. And I just hang out and like to meet people.
Trust me, people, he's being very blunt. He is everything Smite. He lives and breathes Smite day in and day out. And it's actually been, I don't know what, 6-7 months since you and I actually were on any type of podcast show, I think.
Yeah, it's been a long time, definitely.
It's a long time. Drybear and I originally started up the podcast show, Smite Update, and Drybear got a little busy, and with that thing called Tier Monster in life, he just had to do them. So him and I parted ways about 6-7 months back, but we both stayed in the Smite community doing lots and lots of stuff, so it's kind of worked out well. Guys, we're going to begin the show by kind of talking about Vulcan, and I want to remind you guys, if you guys want to call in and talk to Drybear and I live, call in. You can give your comments, you can ask your questions. Keep in mind, though, you don't have to be talking strictly about the topic at hand. You could call in and ask a random question. What are your thoughts on Kali in Conquest right now? Or anything. I mean, you could put out any question you want for Drybear and I, but we're going to have some set topics to talk about to keep the flow of the show going. And just call in via Raid Call. The number is 7461039. And don't be afraid, Drybear does not bite, I promise. He only headbutts, but he doesn't bite, so it's okay. Without a doubt. So let's go ahead and talk about Vulcan here. Vulcan was reworked just the other week, and we had some decent changes made to him. His backfire now kind of slides along walls and angles if necessary. Along with the fact of the magma bomb being almost a stun ability that he does have for 1 second when that is placed down on the ground. And I kind of ask you, Drybear, you do a lot of casting, especially for the EU scene with the weeklies. Have you seen Vulcan being used at all within the weeklies? And what have you seen with Vulcan outside of that so far?
Vulcan can and should never ever be used in a tournament setting the way he is now. If he ever gets shown at all, it's because he's a troll hover in a pick setting for the picking phase. Vulcan is, without a doubt, the worst character in this game in the current state.
Quite a statement. Quite a statement. I guess my question there is, what makes you think? What makes you say that he's the worst? I mean, we could go ahead and say who's the best and the worst guy in the game right now, but to you, what validates that comment?
He is, if you look at the stat gains, he is a little bit stronger than, let's say, a hunter. He's, as far as stat gain goes, around the level of a bruiser. He's at that point where he gains HP a decent amount. He has some damage, some protections, but he kind of fits that role of not too much damage, not too much health. He's kind of right in the middle. So he gains stats as leveling the way he's set up as a bruiser. He has one ability that has a slight CC on. He has the knock away with the sun, which is pretty much his only way to influence anyone. And so, as a guardian, if you only have that, he's not great at all. The way he's set up, it looks like he should be a magical bruiser / guardian role / support. He's probably one of the worst supports in the entire game that fits within the realm. Anyone that's running Vulcan support is kidding themselves. And at the same time, he's not bruiser enough to do anything. He can't really influence a team fight. So it's very difficult for Vulcan to fit into any role. And so you go, okay, so he can't be a guardian. He can't be a bruiser. What should he be? Well, let's make him a mage. You go full damage, you go full penetration, go at that. But the problem is his turret doesn't survive.
Yeah,
3 of his abilities influence around his turret, but the turret doesn't survive. It doesn't focus on you. And when people can outrange it, there is a dead zone on the turret where ranged gods can stand right outside of it and still hit it without it hitting them. So you can just stand right in that dead zone and just keep whacking the turret even though it's looking at you. It's basically, imagine like Bastet relying on her cats to do anything. Mid and late game, the cats are just going to die. So, the way Vulcan is now, his damage is too low. His CC influence is too low. His HP gain is too low. His stat gains are too low. He doesn't really do any of the roles very well. And when you have a Vulcan on your team, not only is he easily countered, but just more likely just ignored because he doesn't bring enough to the table for you to warrant even bother killing him. So, and he doesn't have early game presence. I think the only place right now where it's realistic to play him is solo and mid, and I think mid is a little better because he gets bullied in the solo lane, especially with the prevalence of Hand of the Gods and jungle influence on that solo lane. He just cannot keep up with the push potential of anyone who's bearing down on top of him, and that's why I think Vulcan right now just doesn't have a home and shouldn't really be played unless you want to troll. And I know there's people out there that always say this, and I go on this rant all the time. They're like, Vulcan's great, you don't know how to play him. And this is just basically stemmed from people, being ignored for 15 to 30 minutes, getting farmed, and then going out mid-game when they have damage up when they're saying, Vulcan's really good. But Vulcan is in my opinion, even with the state that AMC is in right now, I still think Vulcan is the worst god in the game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of people would complain that AMC has been nerfed to the point where he's no longer viable. And I think, as you said there, you kind of put Vulcan almost in that same category where there's always going to be another god better to play suited within that role. And you explained it perfectly there. I guess my question for you is, we did see an overhaul, a complete overhaul, not a complete, but an overhaul of Vulcan, and it doesn't seem to have done the job. And you mentioned a few things there. You mentioned, first off, damage, and you mentioned CC as kind of some big things to point out about Vulcan, and also a lot of his abilities revolve directly around his Inferno Cannon. If you could mold Vulcan any way you wanted to now in order to make him more adapt and make him a true support, what would you do to change up some of his abilities?
I think it is a twofold thing. Either I think you just have to decide what you want him to be. Do you want him to be a bruiser / tank, or do you want him to be a mage? Because he's kind of just floating in both worlds right now, and it doesn't really seem to fit either. So once you decide, you have to figure out what you want to do. If you want him to make him a guardian, you have to give him more CC and more stat gains. You have to make him to the point where he is influential as a guardian, and you have to rework his entire kit because it doesn't work the way it is. If you want him to be a mage, there's a lot of things you have to do, and first and foremost, you have to make that turret reliable. And there's a lot of ways you can do this. You can either increase the range of it, increase the arc of it, maybe up to 180, keep it out as it is, and maybe make it a 360 turret where it shoots in 360 around it, and then that way it's still frail, it's still easily killed, and then it has the ability to never really be, it can only be outranged, it can't be zoned out. I think if you don't want to do that and you want to keep it the way it is, then you have to make it more durable. It is way, way too easy to kill that turret. That turret is a squishy thing. You know,
Sure.
you go up against a Kali, you put it down, you pop your ultimate, she does a single bloodlash and it's gone, and all of a sudden you're just golden running around in circles, and there's nothing that you're going to be able to do to that Kali,
Sure.
and it shouldn't take one ability to kill it. So make it more durable. Make it maybe 360. Make it so you have more than one. There's a lot of ideas that people have come up with thus far to make him more influential. Or I think, you know, make him more towards the way he was when he came out. Just give him more damage.
Yeah,
His damage is pitiful. It is so low for how hard he has to work to make it. He has to land his 1, knock them back into the turret with the 3, put the turret down, pop the ult, and make sure that the turret is still alive at this point, which means you're placing it at a good spot. It has a good angle, but it's also in range and also avoided any AoEs that were going on at the time. And if all these conditions are met, your damage is a little less than Hebo's, maybe?
Sure.
I mean,
Sure. Oh, yeah.
all the work you have to go through, it's like, why is the damage so low? So either give him more damage, make the turret more reliable, or just full-on make him a bruiser tank.
Sure.
I think those are the 3 ways you can make him better.
Yeah, I mean, some people have even argued to allow him to put down more than one Inferno cannon in order to own an area. You know, some people have argued that Vulcan is definitely allows you to, if he was built properly, would allow you to secure a portion of the lane. And that's not the case, as we talked about before, and you mentioned that you can hit the cannon from being just outside of its range, so it doesn't actually have that ownage where you have to go ahead and sacrifice some of your health to destroy it. So I definitely agree. Let's go ahead and bring in a caller. We have a few callers here. Bring them in and kind of get their opinions here. Let's see. Yosh, you are on Smite Talk. How's it going, sir? Can you hear us? Yes, no, maybe so. Oh,
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can
Hey.
hear you. Welcome to Smite Talk.
Alright.
What do you want to talk about today, sir?
It's kind of a little bit off topic, but who do you think the best jungler is right now in the game?
Sure. I'll hand that over to Drybear first, and then I'll give my opinion second.
The best jungler right now is, I would say, easily Mercury. Just because of his ability to, I mean, his ultimate is the only ultimate in the game you really can't prepare yourself for because of the distance that it can go and how quickly it happens. A good Mercury will never let you hear the activation sound and will come from an angle that you will not be able to see and from a distance that's too far away to react to. You're pretty much forced into buy and beads. Now the same effect is there for Fenrir, and I think Fenrir and Mercury are the 2 strongest jungles right now, but I think Fenrir is beat out by Mercury just because of the damage output he does late game, how quickly he scales up, whereas Fenrir's early game is very strong, maybe a little bit stronger than Mercury's. Mid game, Mercury's takes over Fenrir, and then late game, Fenrir becomes more of a brawler because he has to be in the face too much. Generally, you'll see still on my mind. You'll see Fenrir's pick up Bulwark of Hope or those kind of tankier items, whereas you'll see Mercury's transition into more of a hyper carry role where they can just literally burn someone down in 1 or 2 seconds. I think Mercury is easily the best jungler in the game right now.
Yeah, I definitely was going to comment. I was putting mine directly towards Fenrir, just because of playing along with him for quite some time. I love the engage that Fenrir has early game, jumping from jungle directly into lane. I kind of feel he has a little bit more sustainability over Mercury sometimes, but if you do build Mercury correct, you can kind of have a little bit more sustain in jungle versus him. And kind of what Drybear commented on, with Mercury's ultimate, it makes it amazing actually to engage into lane with that ultimate, starting out with that ultimate when you go directly into lane. So I definitely like it. I'll throw it over to you, the caller. Who do you think is the best jungler? You asked us. What are your thoughts?
Now that I think about it, yeah, I think Mercury would definitely. I'd have to side with Drybear on that. I didn't even think of Fenrir. I was thinking Thanatos or something like that.
Oh, okay. Well, what makes you think Thanatos?
Just how much damage he seems to put out. He doesn't have the jump or escape ability, but he has like the chase and everything.
Sure. Yep. No, I could definitely agree. What other questions you got? You want to talk about anything else today?
No, that's all I had.
All right, man. Well, thanks for calling in. Do appreciate it.
Yep, thanks for the answer.
No problem. Mercury, come on now. Come on. No, I love Mercury. Mercury's so good. Once again, guys, if you guys do want to call in, please go ahead and call in via raid call. The group ID number is 746-1039. Feel free to call in. We'll call in, talk about anything. Good example there, viewer calling in to talk about jungling. And we were talking about Vulcan, but it's okay. I love going off topic. Not an issue at all. So, I was kind of talking about earlier with Vulcan how it'd be really nice to be able to see, even have more CC, more damage, just to make him more viable as a support. I had made the comment on his Inferno cannon to make the Inferno Cannon be able to place down more than one, maybe two, maybe three. You might have to scale the damage a little bit more. But my last question for Vulcan, and I'll throw it to you, Drybear. Do you think the Volcanic Overdrive is anything exciting, or isn't necessarily a great ultimate for him?
I think it works if his turret was reliable, like we talked about earlier. I think the fact that it's so underwhelming is because it has a heavy reliance on something that's not durable. I mean, if his turret was hard to take down, you can kill his turret no matter what. I mean, Hebo goes through a crushing wave. Why did you put it down? And all of a sudden, you just run away scared, go back to your tower because it countered out. You know, it's just the fact that the turret is so weak and frail that it makes his ultimate a lot less reliable.
Sure. Yeah, I can understand that. Let's go ahead and take another call from a viewer here, Kane. Let's go ahead and bring Kane in here. Let's see. Drag him in. Hey, Kane, how's it going? Welcome to Smite Talk. Can you hear us, sir? Maybe not.
Oh.
You still there, Drybear? Good. Oh, there we go. Kane, how's it going? I heard you for a second.
Is there what?
Yeah, he was there. He was there for a second. Doesn't look like he is there now, though.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are, Kane. How's it going, man?
I'm in.
All right, cool. What do you want to talk about today?
That's going pretty good.
So, what question, comment? What do you got going on? What do you want to talk about? Kane, you still there? All right, we'll go ahead and take another viewer. Let's go ahead and bring in Fly Knight. Looks like Kane was having some issues there. Let me see here. Swap people around. Drybear, you still with me? You good? Drybear, can you hear me? Oh no, what's going on? Let's see what's going on here. Drybear, I see your face moving, but I don't see you talking. Oh, I don't hear you talking. Da, da, da. I might have to restart my lovely raid call. One sec here, let me restart my raid call, guys. Man, I had so much faith in raid call. Alright, I exited raid call. Let's jump back in. We still got Drybear's lovely face, though, so we're good to go. Alright, let me get back into raid call, guys. Bear with me.
Octane, you there, man?
Hey, I'm here. Are you talking to me over Skype? Oh, hang on here. Yeah, you must be talking to me over Skype. Let's see here. Da, da, da. Yeah, one sec. I'm going back into raid call. Alright. Da, 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 da. One sec. Let's see. Now he's going to dance on stream. Alright. Why is my raid call acting goofy? Let's see what happens. For some reason, it's not letting me back into raid call. WTF, mate. WTF. Alright, just updating Drybear, guys. Gonna try to get back in here. See what's going on. Bear with me. Bear with me. Drybear breaks everything. He's just so good. Alright, it says loading. It says loading.
Yeah, raid call's broked.
Let me see here. Alright, so I'm talking to you over Skype. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you get back into raid call or no? Is it just me?
Nope.
Oh,
Yeah,
broke. It's broke. All right, well we'll give it a few. We'll try to get back into it if need be. Oh, there it goes. Just popped back up. So I'm gonna swap back over there. Raid call's fixed. So swap back over there. I'll meet you back over at raid call.
Alrighty.
All right, swapping back over. Bam. Maybe it's fixed. I don't know. WTF? Move it. Alright guys, apparently raid call decided to take a poop on us, so we're going to try to get it working here. Maybe not. Let's try to reload it one more time before we just use Skype for right now. Let's see. Loading back up. Bear with us guys, do appreciate it.
It is super lag. It won't let me in. It says loading.
Oh well, we'll talk about some stuff here, and then we'll go back to raid call if need be. And we'll take some viewer calls, guys, on raid call in a few minutes. We'll give them a few as Drybear dances on stream. Look at that, sex machine, sex machine. All right, so let's move on to our next topic and kind of talk about the current state of the gods and map balance. And revolving around that, this is sometimes a question. And map balance necessarily could kind of revolve around the gods. The map's balanced, as you could say, because it's identical on each side. Completely understandable. But it can come down to, is the map balanced depending on the class you play? Does it favor one class over another? And I'll throw that to you first, Drybear. Do you think the Smite, let's say Conquest map, do you think it favors a certain class of god over another, or no?
What do you mean by class?
Okay, let's go ahead and put like support, or are we talking about ADs, or are we talking about
so the archetypes,
tanks?
the classes that they're...
Correct.
I don't think so.
No,
I think that Conquest is... it's a team game, it's a team map. It's meant to be there for, the people that want to end up, working together to accomplish something, or they want to, get a goal. I think if you take any one class out, it's very difficult to accomplish anything. Now, you can't go for kill lanes where you don't pick up a tank, but then that means your team fights aren't strong enough. And I think that I don't think the map really is not. I like the map where it is now, the Conquest map. I think it's balanced. I think it is in a good spot where it is. I don't really have any complaints now. It's had a long history of changes. For those of you who've been around for a long time, I'm sure remember where the fire giant mouth was really tight. You could actually block it off with an Artemis trap. That was a serious balancing issue. Same thing for the Gold Fury. The areas need to be opened up more. These side camps were an issue. They've had a lot of changes, and I think I'm happy where the Conquest map is right now.
Sure. You used to be able to, you think of it, Ymir used to be able to wall off, as you said, the fire giant there. That was huge, allowing you to just completely wall that off and be able to focus with that perspective. To me, there isn't necessarily a class that specifically has a map advantage. I think Hi-Rez has done a very, very good job at keeping it very even, very balanced, depending on the class you pick. Your junglers always seem to have a little bit better of an engage coming out of jungle than another god would. They've also added as well, they've added in Blink, which has kind of changed up a lot for those gods that don't have an engage. It seems like every other god that's come out over the past 6 months does have an engage, whether it's going up in the air or it's leaping into lane. But we do have Blink, which allows for that engage as well if you're not a god that does have that. I kind of throw it over to you with the current Conquest map, and you and I haven't had this discussion, but with Blink, has Blink changed the way that people approach the Conquest map and the god selections they make? What are your thoughts?
In overall, no.
Okay.
In some situations, yes. I think the introduction of Blink was one of the reasons why Odin fell off so hard, is because having that available as an item, especially for characters that are so easily caught out by the Odin spears, characters like Agni or something like that, can just pick up Blink to avoid it. I think Blink is on a, okay, so you look at it from mage, assassin, hunter, jungler role. Yes, Blink doesn't influence very much. If you want to pick up combat Blink, it has a significant cooldown, and generally is more of a crutch. If used I guess flagrantly. Now the other influence is going to be on Guardians. Guardians and Initiators. The regular Blink does change things a lot. That had a big impact. Characters like Tyr, characters like Ymir, characters like Ares, characters that generally were slow and needed positioning to get their combos off, now had that with this, the tier 3 Blink that is a very short cooldown and the movement speed increase. So that is a really, really big difference that you'll be able to see with, just Guardians and Initiators. I don't think it made that big of an impact as far as the rest of the characters went, but definitely a big impact on Initiation.
Sure. All right, so raid call's back up. It looks like we're working now, thank goodness. Of course, it has to go down in the middle of the show. So I'm going to go ahead and mute Skype, and I'll meet you back over at raid call. All right, so muted on Skype. All right, so I am over on raid call. Mic muted, audio muted, and let me know when you can hear me, Mr. Drybear.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. All right, good. So
There
let's
it
go
goes.
ahead and try to get I can't believe that happened. Let's try to get a viewer's perspective on and see what their thoughts are on the current balance of the game. We'll go ahead and bring in Fly Knight. And Fly, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Thanks for bearing with us for those raid call issues. What kind of questions? What do you want to talk about today, sir?
Well, I had a couple different questions on it. Kind of sparked from the match of the day the other day with can't remember. I think it's Hoarder is what it's called.
Okay.
I was just kind of having some troubles with Freya. Every time I get into a match with Freya of any type, really, especially with the Hoarder, just the amount of damage she puts out. I just kind of wondering if anybody has any tips or anything like that.
Sure. I'll throw it to you first, Drybear.
Freya is a peculiar character. She kind of is in a kind of a world of her own. The thing about Freya is her mid and late game is very, very strong. Mm-hmm. Originally, Freya wasn't that great. She had a few changes to her. Her passive gained a lot of lifesteal, and then all of a sudden she became a viable jungler. But the main reason why Freya became a powerful jungler is because the jungle guaranteed her farm. So, you'd see Freya sit in the jungle, they wouldn't even gank. And this was before the whole snowball changes that made the game much slower and prevented things from going out of control. But Freya would just go in the jungle, farm, come out, at level 14, 15, and be unstoppable. So Freya is a very high burst damage mage with a good control with the banish. The thing about Freya is she's very squishy, and if you get a moment to pick her off, you most often will. She'll use her ultimate defensively, you have to be careful about that, but the biggest thing about Freya is, fight in lane. The minions are a beautiful block for Freya. If there are minions between you and her, there's not a whole lot of damage she can do to you because everything that she does is projectile based. So use minions, use walls, use the environment to your advantage to make sure that those projectiles from the pulse radiate combination aren't hitting you. Second of all, if you want the ultimate, if you're worrying about the ultimate, try to stay out of death range. If you're at 10% HP and you see a Freya, just get very far away. Don't even back on her tower, back on your tier 2 tower. Don't give her the opportunity to snipe you with Valkyrie's discretion. So you have to just work with the god itself and see what her strengths and weaknesses are. Her strengths are projectile-based, high single target damage, long-range damage, and some defensiveness with the banish Valkyrie discretion combination. But if she is ever off cooldown, you're going to own her. So if you have a tier 3 Aegis and you buy a lot of time for the pulse radiate to go out, onto cooldown, that transition from I have pulse radiate to I'm running around and slashing my sword is the time you want to attack. That's when she's weakness. So wait for that transition. Don't run into her face when she has the combo up because she's going to shred you. But if that's down, kill her off, force her to use her ultimate, avoid the banish. Just wait for those little time periods. It's kind of like red light, green light with Freya. With red light when she's shooting you, green light when she's not, and then just pick her off.
Yeah, my biggest issue is definitely Pulse, and you kind of talked about it there completely, Drybear. Awesome answer, by the way. Pulse is definitely where I find myself struggling with Freya as well. So, as you explained there, using the environment, using the minions to kind of get around that, and very good analogy there with red light, green light. I think that works perfectly, trying to find the opportunity to hit her where she's going to have too much on cooldown. So, very good point. Fly Knight, what other, you have anything else to comment on that or any additional questions?
No, that I never really even thought about. I'm kind of new to the game, so it still takes me a little bit of time to work out the timing and all of that. But definitely the minions and the walls. I never really thought about just blocking her attacks in general like that. I was always trying more to do to dodge out of the way, which really just fails every time. But
sure, definitely. What other questions you got for us today, sir?
I think that was it. I kind of like to throw out a general question just to think.
Sure.
Generally what I've been playing is Zeus mostly just because of the stun and all of that. I'm kind of hesitant on going and trying other gods. I just kind of wondering if there's any opinions on what might be a good god for me to try since I am pretty comfortable with Zeus. What's kind of a good second to try after that?
Sure, I'll take this first and then throw it over to Drybear. I think the main thing is, and for new players, I kind of played the same style when I first started out, where it was like, okay, I want to play these set gods, and I want to be great at these set gods, but I don't want to wander outside of it. And the thing is, if you open up the entire god selection and pick from the gods that you find counter Zeus the best, and you play them, it'll actually make you a better Zeus player because you'll know how to go ahead and counter the gods that seem to be countering you the most. So my recommendation would be to start to journey into the gods which you have the hardest time with. So it might be a god like Freya, or I'm sorry, like Fenrir, who could just jump on top of Zeus and burn him down so quickly. Might be a good god to start playing in order to help counter. If you could keep your mind open to just playing anything, that'll help to kind of expand things. But I'll throw it over to Drybear for some kind of answers to maybe some similar gods. Drybear, you still with me? Mr. Drybear? You there? Can you hear me? Let's see what he says. Are you still there, Flying? Fly Knight, are you still there? Is Raid Call dying?
I can't hear you in Raid Call at all, so I just threw that out there.
Raid Call's killing us. Alright, well let me go ahead and kill that. Lovely, lovely. Well, Raid Call's taking a poop for us tonight, so unfortunately we're going to kill that. Alright, well Raid Call's kind of taking a poop for us tonight, so that kind of sucks for viewer calls. Can you still hear me now? Okay. I went ahead and swapped
Yes,
over.
I can.
Alright, I got rid of Raid Call, and we'll just kind of have to talk for tonight. I don't know what the deal is with Raid Call, guys. I do apologize. They must be having issues tonight. It's like reliable source outside of lovely Skype, and we go to Raid Call, and it's like failing. So, well, to take that guy's kind of question there, I kind of answered it, but you probably couldn't hear the whole thing, could you, Drybear?
I turned the stream on to hear it.
Oh, okay. Well, what are your thoughts on some gods that would be good for this gentleman outside of Zeus?
If you Fly Knight, if you're playing Zeus in the mid lane, I would recommend you go directly into Hebo. Hebo and Zeus play the mid lane almost identically, where their push is mediocre to weak in the early stages, but their harassment is really strong. They're mid-range mages that are good at team fights. That's Zeus and Hebo kind of fit the same realm. So if you want to have a similar god to Zeus, I would go directly into Hebo. And then once you go to Hebo, Hebo is much more akin to other mages. So that's kind of like he's kind of like the gateway drug in this situation. So you have Zeus, who is a bit of an outlier as far as his playstyle goes. Not many mages play like him as far as his skill set, but as far as the overall strategy, Hebo is very similar to his playstyle. But once you go to Hebo, Hebo is also much closer to characters like Poseidon, like characters like Agni, characters like Isis, where they're more mage style. What's the burst, going in? You don't really have to worry about auto attacks as much, and it's all about your spells. So I would recommend that you go directly into Hebo after Zeus, and then use that as a gateway into other characters like Agni. Agni is a fantastic character to learn. He is far and away the most versatile and useful mages in the game. He has been in every single meta we've had since the inception of the closed beta of Smite, because of the fact that his damage output is good, his transitions are beautiful, his scaling the late game is good, his control on team fights, his mobility. I mean, Agni is all around a very well-rounded mage and has been in every single meta. So I would go Hebo into Agni, and then from there I would recommend switching completely into a different role. Try playing Hunter, try playing Jungle, try playing Guardian, try to go solo. You can take Zeus in the solo lane, you can take characters like Kronos in the solo lane. So I would recommend that kind of transition.
Sure, definitely. Good point there. For the live chat, guys, we're going to swap over to ask.fm. So if you guys have questions, please go ahead and post them. ask.fm/OctanePro. And I'll try to take the questions from there since we seem to be having issues with a raid call. Please feel free to ask them throughout the night, and I'll try to get up as much as possible here. Take another one here, which is a pretty decent question. How do you guys feel about some of the OP gods in the competitive league scene right now? Example, Chunga, Zeus, Mercury. What are some changes that would make them balanced? I don't like the word OP. I feel like the word strong is a little bit better, because I don't feel like any of the gods right now are completely overpowered. We're not seeing like the original Guan Yu or anything like that in the current state. But what are your thoughts, Drybear, on some of the changes? We got 3 gods here: Chunga, Zeus, Mercury. What are some changes that we can make to these gods that, from what these people are requesting?
First off, I don't think release Guan Yu is anywhere near the realm of overpowered, strong. I think you need new words for that one, because that is just, I don't know, he made the other gods feel like mortals the way he was set up. But,
mortals among men.
So the three gods listed are easily the most banned gods in the game state now. Zeus, Chang'e, and Mercury are the three most banned gods in the game, and for good reason. Mercury is very, very strong. His early game is good. His ganks are very strong. His ultimate is, you can't really prepare yourself for it. And his late game scaling, he's probably one of the truest forms of hyper carry that we have in Smite. Not just carry, but hyper carry. His scaling potential is very, very much exponential. You look at a character like Zeus, who previously never really got played all that much, and what the biggest change that came to him is his ultimate animation used to be 1.2 seconds. They halved that to 0.6 seconds on the lightning storm, which made it so he was less vulnerable during the animation of his ultimate, and also allowed him to get it off sooner, and the detonate charges were there. What they did to him after that is scaled down the scaling on his detonate charge, to make it so his burst is a little bit less, but still he's a very strong character. Now, I don't think Zeus is too strong. I think maybe people are just now learning to adjust to him. He's definitely a very, very strong character, and I think he always has been, but he's finally making his way in. Mercury, I think, definitely needs to be adjusted downward. I wouldn't say he's overpowered. I would just say he's too strong. And Chang'e, I think, is a little a touch overpowered with what she has now. The issue with Chang'e, and the way it was before, Chang'e was a very good character. In fact, she was picked up a lot, and she kind of fell off. The issue with her is she's probably best played in the solo lane. She's not really that. I mean, she can be played as a support. She can be played, in that 2v2 lane, but she gets outclassed and outshined by other Guardian supports that are just so good at protecting their character, whereas Chang'e just has heals, which doesn't help too much in the early. And so she's best played in the solo lane. The problem with Chang'e in the solo lane before is her early push was too weak to keep up with certain bruisers. She had just her one for the push, and then, of course, the Hand of the Gods, but it just wasn't enough for her to be able to keep up with the push in the solo lane, where the solo lane is mainly about pushing. You look at characters like Guan Yu, like Sun Wukong, like Tyr, like Hercules, who have a lot of abilities that can clear lanes very easily. Hercules can Earthbreaker into Driving Strike, Hand of the Gods. Tyr can Fearless into the Hand of the Gods, or Cleave, whatever he wants to do. There's a lot of options available, but Chang'e, before she scales up enough damage to clear the wave in the solo lane, she is pretty weak and punishable. And so what they did is they made her 3 have the ability to do damage, which now, it scaled down the healing benefit that she got, which is helpful, but now she has a little bit too much damage. Now she has 2 abilities to do damage, and so she's constantly cycling out damage, healing herself up. And her 2, which makes her very, very defensible to pretty much everything, it's a built-in Aegis amulet with motion. Once you add more damage to Chang'e, it helps her early game, and so I would say if you isolate it from levels like 1 to 8 in the solo lane, Chang'e's fine.
Sure.
If you look at Chang'e in the mid stage and the late stage, she's way too strong, and that's because of the scaling potential of her 2 damaging abilities, the power of her ultimate, which is the longest stun that we have in Smite currently if you hit 5 players, and is a very, very strong ability. And of course, she's defensible if you want to try and burst her down, plus the healing. So now you're worried about the damage she does, you're worried about countering the healing that she's putting out, and you're worried about trying to time your attacks so she doesn't evade them. Chang'e is incredibly powerful right now, and I think she already is guaranteed to have a nerf. I think that was spoiled about a week or so ago. But I would say Chang'e is probably one of the strongest there. Mercury needs adjustment. I think Zeus he's too volatile to touch right now. I think the problem with Zeus, and it's always been the problem with Zeus since forever, is that his game states are so vastly different that if you adjust one of them, they all go out of control. And they've been working on Zeus since the dawn of time, and it's so hard to get Zeus to a good spot because of the way his character is designed. And I think, light touches here and there may fix him up, but I really don't think Zeus is too much of a problem as is now. And problem as in this needs to be nerfed right now. I think Zeus is decent where he is. I think his scaling potential is good, and I think if you shut him down, it's great. And I think he just comes down to be able to figure out what Zeus can do and how you can counter him versus the other 2 characters, which I think do need some adjustments.
Yeah, I'm happy where Zeus is at. I agree with you there. As for Mercury, I feel like the scaling maybe with his attack speed needs to be adjusted, maybe with some of his abilities, because I think that's where it gets you. Like once he's on top of you and actually doing the damage straight in front of you, even if it's his white melee attack damage, I think it's very, very strong. And then finally with Chang'e, it was kind of funny because I don't know how many viewers got a chance to see from the Tencent videos this past weekend. I think it was an assault match. Anatoly was playing as Chang'e, and the Chinese casters were calling Chang'e overpowered. Because did you see that video at all or no, Drybear?
Mm-mm.
There was a video that they showed up where Anatoly was playing and survive. It was going like on a 1-on-3 combination, and then it came down to like a 1-on-2. And he was just, there's so much sustain in that combination, but he was able to do so much damage that it was super, super effective. And it was in an assault match. And so I think that's where some people could argue he was just super, super strong playing as Chunga. And so, as you said, there'll be a nerf coming up. And I think it definitely needs to come down to the damage. I'm happy with where the heals are at on Chunga, but not necessarily with being able to do damage in so many ways. Let's go ahead and take another question, then we'll kind of move on talking about another topic here. Let's see. We have lots. 31 questions been asked so far, so let's see. Let's see what we got. Let's see. Let's see. Trying to find something related to kind of the gods and the balance and stuff like that. Let's see. Okay, here's a good one. I like this one. Can you guys explain the difference between a god that is considered overpowered and a god that is known to snowball very hard, considering that there has been a huge decision over whether or not Freya is OP or not? I myself find her to not really be a problem if the team support is on the ball. So I'll throw this to you first, and I'll take it second. So big difference you feel right now between overpowered and a snowballer that can snowball very hard?
I guess it depends on the curve.
Sure.
If a character who is meant to scale, like a carry type role, scales too quickly, whereas they start hitting a peak too early on, the scale isn't there, then maybe that would be overpowered. I think the thing about characters and game balance is probably one of the most challenging things you can do, especially as more and more characters are being released and people are figuring out more and more about the meta overall, is that you have to be careful with how you do things, and it comes down to subjective use. I mean, there are characters in this game, I'm sure, who have potential that hasn't been unlocked yet, as characters are being tested, challenged, tested as far as like the map goes, or as far as team fights goes, scaling, farming, all that kind of stuff. And also goes along with the game mechanics. Characters that really relied on scaling kind of fell off when the snowball mechanics were put in. So I mean, it all comes down to a lot of factors. Overpowered means that they hit a game state that's strong too soon, or they have abilities that aren't really counterable, or they have certain things that you can't control through usage of game mechanics or character mechanics itself. And that's really the whole idea behind overpowered, is where it's not on a level footing where you can counter it. It just is what it is, and you have to deal with it. That's where that whole realm sits. I don't think there are any characters in this game that are really to the point where it's like, yeah, that's overpowered. I think Chunga is far, far too strong, but she's manageable. And the characters that are meant to scale, I don't think there's any character in the game right now that are, as far as isolated, meant to scale and snowball too hard. Mercury scales really well into the late game, but that by itself is not really the issue with him. The issue is he has a strong early game, he has a strong mid game, his ganks are very powerful. He's a very strong jungler that transitions into a hyper carry, and that bridge right there is the issue. It's not either one either way, it's the fact that he has both. So when someone has too many benefits without many downsides, that's when you start hitting that realm.
Sure. I mean, I think the overpowered one is true. I like that statement there that you said, actually, where it's, if regardless of what you do, you can't counter certain individuals. I think that definitely falls under the OP category. And I think there have been, people may argue left and right, depending on their experiences, as to what gods specifically fall under the OP category. And then definitely, where you come down to strong snowballers, the big, and I see people, pushing snowball and OP sometimes in the same category, but for me with snowballing, I find the snowballing taking effect and being able to, the easiest way to snowball for me is either a mid laner that has a great support of a jungler in order to help cause that mid laner to snowball, or a jungler which has which is very aggressive and pulls off ganks successfully, will cause them to snowball very hard. I see that a lot. Sometimes in the solo lane too, same thing. So it's all situational, I feel like. I mean, I feel like any god could be a strong snowballer. It just depends specifically on their teammates and the gameplay actions that do take do take place within that situation. Let's go ahead and jump on to our next topic. We had the Tencent Games Carnival, which there wasn't a lot publicized specifically, I guess, in the North American side. I didn't really find a lot like on Smite Games website regarding where to find date, times, what events were going on for us to watch, where we could watch stuff at all. But we were thankfully fed a lot of information from some of the Hi-Rez employees, fed a lot of information from some of the team members kind of posting on Reddit. And we got a lot of like YouTube videos on a lot of the Tencent stuff. So my first thought over to you, Drybear, with the Tencent Game Carnival. What do you think this means for the Smite community if people don't realize it?
It's all good things. All good things. Every time a game is successful enough to expand to another region, that is all good things. I think this has implications for growth, for game success, for the meta, the competitive scene. China, Korea, all the more Eastern countries usually have their own style of playing games, and throughout the history of esports, we've always seen a different meta come in as soon as there's an injection of a new region, and that's what I'm really excited about. Is because, we're at a point where we're starting to stagnate with the fact that we have even with EU and with NA creating their own ideas and metas and gameplays. But I'm excited to see fresh looks, fresh faces, fresh eyes come on the game, start creating new things and testing things out. And I think that this could be literally nothing but good for Smite as a whole, and I think it is just good tidings.
Yeah, I think I saw a number, something with the Tencent, and we'll throw it out there first. Those of you guys that aren't familiar, Smite partnered with Tencent quite a few months back in order to help expand Smite into the additional regions throughout the world. And those of you guys not familiar, Tencent was one of the leading companies that worked with League of Legends in order to help the explosion take place internationally. And we've been lucky, and it's not just League of Legends, there's been a lot of other games that they've partnered with, but we've been lucky to have this opportunity as a Smite community because it'll allow us to move past the walls of the North American and EU scene and start to expand internationally in order to grow the attention worldwide. And there was a giant games carnival, which this is like one of the largest ones in Shanghai, and it's called TCG, Tencent Games Carnival. And they had this event going on, and one of the events during that time was Smite. And I think the max total concurrent viewers during the entire thing, now this is not specifically Smite, but overall was like 94,000 people, which blows like, it was like blows my mind, because it's like, okay, can you imagine that Smite, weekly, sometimes we have numbers between like 5,000 and 10,000 for some of our weeklies or big announcements, stuff like that. Mostly God announcements, I guess. But now all of a sudden, 94,000 people got introduced to Smite at once. Like, just boom, here's Smite. And from everything I saw, like, there's a whole bunch of pictures out there, guys. If you guys haven't seen them, go over to Reddit and check it out. What did you think of the stage, Drybear? Did you see that?
Oh my god, the production value was amazing. It was insane, the setup they had.
Yeah.
Given the fact that this game isn't even actually released yet, nor is it completely published. So
Yeah.
I was so excited and really just drawn to the fact that their production value was really high. The tournament was awesome. The setup that they had was beautiful. The crowd was big. It's one of those things where you look and you're like, wow, I want to be there because it just looks so awesome.
Yeah, and it was kind of one of those things that, just throw it up on stream real quick there. That's kind of what the stage, a brief little image off of Reddit. That was a panoramic shot. I think that was taken by Bart. That was up on there. And, my only thing with that is, all right, Hi-Rez, so Tencent, set the bar when it comes down to production quality and stage quality. What are we going to see at the 100K tournament? Are we going to see something like this? I don't know that we will. I feel like this was like unlimited budget right there. But it would still be exciting to see something like that, because I think it would be really, really cool to see. I guess what Dignitas and Cognitive EU, I guess they played Assault, Arena, and Conquest. I guess did they play all the game modes, or are you not sure?
I think they did. I don't know if there was one that was left out, but I know they played almost all of them, if not all of them.
Okay, because I wasn't too sure about it. There wasn't a ton publicized. I'd love to hear more. I assume we'll get a nice little write-up from an employee at Hi-Rez or somebody that was actually visiting specifically there. Yeah, I think it would be super, super cool to see more information come out about the Tencent Games Carnival because of the success that did follow behind it. There were some other pictures there that did go on that did show some of the cosplay. There were some really cool cosplay items. So, did you see those?
Yeah.
Yeah, there were some cool cosplays. We saw a really cool Thor. We saw a cool looking Neath as well. And so that was kind of cool to see. I know cosplay is like really big at some of the bigger events. So it was kind of cool to see. Here's a screenshot of Bart trying to show his muscles next to this Thor. Dude, that was awesome. I mean, I don't know if like these people, I assume these people were hired by Tencent to do some of this because it's pretty sweet to see stuff like that. I guess there's that. And here's the Neath real quick. Those of you guys just checking it out. So the Neath does not look too happy to be hanging out with Bart. I will say that. She does not look too pleased. Moving on from there. What were you going to say, Drybear?
I said I like how the Thor is wearing the blue version with blonde hair.
Yeah, right? Come on. How accurate is that? Jeez. But yeah, the stage looked pretty cool. The trophy was pretty neat. Kind of this like giant scroll looking thing, which was pretty nice. To see as well, and I'm hoping to see a lot of that. I hope we see a lot of that. From what it seems like, I guess the 100,000. There hasn't been a lot of information announced about it, but I guess we'll kind of jump into that. So on March 25th, we have the release of Smite, which is pretty exciting. Somebody actually asked that as one of the questions, which that's why I thought I would recap on that. Hi-Rez Studios did announce they'll be releasing the game on the 25th of March, and I guess I'll throw it over to you. Do you think the game was ready quite some time ago? Or do you think the 25th is the perfect date, gives us some time to clean things up? Or what is your thoughts on that date?
I think the game mechanically is ready. I don't think the game polish-wise, aesthetics, or, as far as being able to handle traffic is ready. And I think that's probably that last one that I mentioned. The main reason why it's being released in March is because the server engineers at Hi-Rez have had a lot of work cut out for them in dealing with the amount of traffic that's been scaling up over time. And it's been a gradual gain, I'm sure, as far as you can map it. But I think they're wanting to be prepared for the release. And something that every software company deals with, most specifically ones that run large games, is they have to deal with stress tests. They have to deal with people that are using the game concurrently from all different areas, making sure you have the right internet providers and everything going. It's very, very tough to have that, and it's almost impossible to be able to predict the numbers you're going to have to handle on a day-to-day basis once the game is released, especially once the game is officially published in China and other regions, is that it's going to start to grow and grow and grow, and they want to realistically be prepared for the changes that will come with that. But it takes a lot of effort to do that. It takes a lot of time, and I think with the history of Hi-Rez, how they have humble beginnings, and they're kind of outgrowing the studio they're in now, and Smite has been their biggest title that they're pouring everything into, and it's growing kind of out of control. They're being careful with how they grow with it and making sure they're always stable along the way. And a lot of people complain about my game has FPS drops and the server lags, and I complained about it too because it's I have the East Coast servers that I'm using, so I have like 110 ping, and it could be better, it could be worse, but I mean, it takes a lot of effort to make all the things happen for Smite that happen on a day-to-day basis, especially with the fact that Smite, Hi-Rez Studios has a very small staff comparatively with how big their game is. So, big props to Hi-Rez, and I think the time frame they've given is pretty good. I think it's actually a really, really good time frame for them to set for themselves to get the servers ready, put in new architecture, put in new system structures, hire new people that they need to handle things, and get all their ducks in a row before the game releases, and then they have a new influx that they may or may not be ready for.
Yeah, I know. I originally, probably maybe 3 or 4 months back, was guessing about Q2 of 2014, and it kind of things line up right around there with March. I think the game between now and then, there's a lot going to be going on. A lot, as you talked about, with the polishing, with the server work. I know their servers are all virtualized, so it allows them to turn up servers as need be, depending on the game load, which is nice. I do like your comment though, and it makes sense for more strategic placement of some of the servers, adding a West Coast one, maybe even a Central one for the North America, and I think that would cover North America no problem. hooking up some data centers there. And then looking overseas, we have control within Europe in order to expand within Europe to add some more servers as well. Outside of that, I know the rest of the world is kind of controlled necessarily by the powers that be at Tencent when it comes down to some of those decisions as well, with kind of the expansion and where they decide to go to. I know like China and kind of the Korean outlet is kind of the big hit that they're looking at right now within Tencent. I think between now and then we're going to see a lot of polishing, a lot of adjustments here and there to kind of correct some of these things to make it good to go before March. And you're right, Hi-Rez has been taking a very conservative, slow-paced approach to things. And I think it's because they've learned their lesson from the past titles that they have put out. And they want to make this one stick. And it seems like, as you said, it has been taking off to a degree which has been, much faster than originally anticipated. On top of that announcement, on the 25th of the game, pretty much going live from beta, we did hear a few things from employees about the fact that they'll be planning some events and activities strictly around that time period to kind of hype up the 25th. On top of that, just a few days later, I guess that 25th is on a Tuesday. On top of that, then later that week on the 29th on Saturday, we go ahead and have the 100,000 Smite launch tournament, which we heard about the 100,000 tournament forever ago. It was 6 months or more back, and now we're seeing it come to light. And so that's going to be on the 29th and 30th. So I guess this is kind of like, a big deal because it's kind of one of our first few tournaments that has been several days long. And the thing is, they're going to be taking the top 4 teams from North America, the top 4 teams from EU, and Hi-Rez Todd actually announced on stage at Tencent they're going to be taking teams from China as well. So this is not going to be limited to just NA and EU, and it looks like things are kind of going to start January 4th with the resets of the weeklies. That's pretty much going to be the qualifier. Any thoughts that you have around the 100,000 tournament, the teams, anything like that?
Love it. Absolutely love it. I think it gives a lot of value to the point system that we have going, the seeding in the tournaments that we run every single week, and I think that's going to put more pressure on the players to kind of live up to a higher standard, show up to every single tournament, and kind of put some structure to the weeklies that we really haven't seen before. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I think that if it's going to really put a fire to the teams, kind of put them in the crucible and give them some time to either melt away or harden into something that we could really be proud of. So I'm excited to see how it'll make things change, how the teams will start to commit to it, with the introduction of the Chinese meta and the teams that come thereafter. I think there's going to be a lot of competition on the board, and I think it'll make the it'll make the 100K a fantastic event to watch, and I think it's going to be something that you don't want to miss in 2014.
Yeah, I mean, January 4th, from there on, it's going to be a big deal. I mean, they haven't announced all the details yet, just my speculations. I assume it's only going to run till the end of February, which will be like 8 tournaments, because you think they would have to give the teams about a month heads up as to travel plans and hotels and all that booking. At least I would hope they would. But you never know how these things work out. But I hope, that gives them about, I'm just guesstimating, this isn't official from Hi-Rez at all, guys, but that gives them about 8 tournaments in order to prove themselves. If they go longer, it's going to be a little difficult to arrange transportation for everybody and all that, but still, I think it's pretty exciting. It's also pretty exciting to see that we're going to see some Chinese teams there. I think that'll be great. I'm actually eager to see if we start to see some Chinese players and teams pop up and then start to stream on Twitch. That would be awesome to start to see that as well. To just start to see some different play styles and stuff like that. We've kind of seen this big disconnect between like North America, EU, and then China. There's this huge disconnect between us and them, and I'd really like to see more of a integration so that we can all kind of collaborate together. So I think that would be cool. So, Drybear, any last comments on the 100,000 K tournament or the Smite release date or Tencent Games Carnival or anything like that?
Nope, love it. Love it. Good things are coming from Smite. If you're a fan of Smite, don't leave, because you'll be missing out on the world here. And I think we're on the precipice of something great. And I think a lot of people recognize it. And I think that there's nothing but good things to come. And I'm really, really excited to see the changes that are on their way, and the new faces that we're going to see coming through. And I think it's sooner rather than later we're going to start getting the attention of the world. And once that happens, I think it's going to become a whole new a whole new world.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting to see. Guys, we're going to go ahead and round out the show here. Go ahead and close things out. Try not to keep things too long. If you guys enjoyed the show, please make sure you go check out other episodes. Or if you caught this show later and want to check out the full episode, check it out on iTunes and also on the Android store. Look up Smite Talk. On the Android store, try to check out there's an app called Beyond Pod that allows you to go ahead and download podcasts strictly. And you can use that, so check it out, Smite Talk. If you guys have any questions, comments, or feedback, please email them over to smitetalk@gmail.com. I do apologize about our raid call issues. We weren't able to get all the calls we wanted to in tonight, but hopefully raid call has that addressed for next week. If you guys want to check out the video version of this show and other shows, check it out on youtube.com/TheSmiteUpdate. Next week, the show will be on Sunday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern. And Drybear, when you're not on Smite Game at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern, where can people check out your content?
YouTube.com/DrybearGamers, Twitch.tv/Drybear, and of course on Smite Game, like you mentioned. I'm pretty easy to find nowadays.
Pretty easy, huh? Pretty easy. All right, folks. Well, thank you guys very much for coming to hang out tonight. Do appreciate the people that did try to call in. I will see you guys next week, and I will be streaming viewer games starting in about 5 minutes on Smite Game till about 10 o'clock, and then Mamacita will be coming on after me. So stay tuned, guys. Take care.
See you guys.